Chapter 3. I'm out of here, Dad shouts, his voice echoing through the two-story entranceway. The car service will be here any minute. Ava rushes him as he walks into the kitchen. Bye, Daddy! She gives him a hug and then pulls back to take a better look. That's what you're wearing? He looks down at his jeans, which are cuffed in just a bit too tight. What's wrong with these? I just got them. Ava looks over at me because I just got them is code for a new girlfriend took me shopping. We know that Dad dates, with his full head of dark hair just starting to get gray around the edges. His height and his money, he's a catch, but he never brings any of the girls home. You're not even wearing socks, she says with a wrinkled nose. Dad looks down and waves loafer at the two of us. I've been told I have sexy ankles. Gross, I say. Anyway, Dad says, I'm going to check out the new school building in Soto, not walking the runways in Paris. Nobody cares what I look like as long as I bring the money. Fine, but when you get home, we're seriously going shopping, Ava says. She reaches over and grabs the flat cap off his head. And this has to go. Like I said, as long as I bring the money, Dad says, running his fingers through his disheveled hair. He walks over and gives me a quick hug around the shoulders, the kind you'd give a teenage son if you had one. Have a good week without me. He winks. Heard anything? I pretend to glare at him, but I know he's as anxious to get the Stanford email as I am. You know I'll call you first. That's my girl, Dad says, giving my shoulder one last squeeze. Keep your eyes on the prize. Even if you can't reach me right away on this trip, keep trying. I want to be the first to hear the good news. I will, I say. And how about you, my baby girl? Dad asks Ava. What are you going to do while I'm gone? Ava shrugs. I don't know. Hit the beach if it gets warmer. After the summer, I won't have any time to lie out anymore. Which is ridiculous because she applied only to state schools that are less than 20 miles inland. She purses her lips into a pout and Dad laughs, gathering her into a big bear hug. Somehow, I think you'll find the time, no matter where you end up, Dad says. He turns to Cecilia as she walks out of the pantry, her arms full of ingredients for dinner. Now you have the credit card, he asks. I do, she says, as if she hasn't been through this routine 100 times. Dad is constantly flying off to far corners of the world, checking on his orphanage in Guatemala or funding that school for underprivileged children in Africa. Apparently adopting 2 needy babies wasn't enough for him. He has to save the world. And I left some cash in the envelope on the hall table. Dad's phone buzzes and he checks the display. Car's here. Cell service is awful in that part of South Africa, so I may not be very reachable, but I'll check in as often as I can. Be good, he says, and with a wave he heads towards the front door. Cecilia grabs a cutting board and starts chopping onions vigorously as Ava checks her phone. Dad's departure barely causing a ripple in our routine. What are you making? I ask Cecilia. She doesn't look up from her chopping, even though I know that she could do it blindfolded and still make tiny, perfect pieces. Chicken parmesan. With homemade sauce? Cecilia glances at me but doesn't bother with an answer. The only time jarred pasta sauce sees the inside of one of our pans is on her night off. Before she was with us, she was a cook in Dad's restaurant, and she more than knows her way around the kitchen. Can I help? I ask. She answers by putting the knife down and moving to the sink to wash some tomatoes. She knows I'll do it right because I do it her way. Over the years, she's taught me everything she knows in bits and pieces, and I like to cook. Ava's fingers fly over her phone. A bunch of us are going to the movies later, she says, her eyes on the screen. Want to come? I glance up from the onion, my eyes already stinging. It's a school night. Ava pretends to slump forward onto the granite countertop, her hands up in surrender. Seriously, it's Sunday, she says, her voice muffled. You have to get out more. Seriously, I repeat. I've still got like 2 hours of homework to deal with. I lean sideways away from Cecilia. I wasted a ton of time on Friday night, thanks to you. Ava pulls herself back into a sitting position and shakes her head. Hey, if it weren't for me, you'd have no social life at all. Don't blame me if you end up living alone with 20 cats someday. You know what happens when you die in a room full of cats. They eat you. Despite pretending not to listen, Cecilia laughs out loud. Good Lord, Ava, she says, shutting off the water in the sink. Leave your sister alone. You should be grateful that she wants to make something of herself. Get you off the hook. Those are fighting words to Ava. Are you saying that I'm not smart enough to be some stupid business person? That Lexi's the only one who can get into Stanford? I could do that too if I wanted to. Ava's played right into Cecilia's hands, just like every other time. Stop being such a pooch, I say, using the word we made up when we were kids. Cecilia glares at me. She hates the word pooch, but can't do anything about it because it doesn't actually mean anything. I'm not saying that at all, she says as she bends over to look for another cutting board in the cabinet. You're plenty smart enough. You just don't make it a priority. Maybe if you actually stayed in from time to time, instead of running all over town from one party to the next, you'd be able to get into Stanford too. Listening to the two of them have their standard arguments only reminds me of the one part I'm not looking forward to, going to college alone. Ava might be smart enough to get into Stanford, but she wasn't dumb enough to apply, not with her grades the way they are. At this point, we're going to be hundreds of miles apart. Even in this big house, we shared a room until 7th grade, when Ava decided she needed her own space. When Dad finally broke down and bought a new bedroom set for the room down the hall from mine, I snuck in with a blanket and my pillow and slept on her floor for weeks just to hear her steady breathing at night. As crazy as she makes me, I can't imagine not seeing her every day. It would be like a piece of me was missing. Ava's arguing back now, but I tune them out, concentrating on making little perfect onion squares like Cecilia does. I glance up at the screen of the small TV that Cecilia had Dad install below the cabinets where it squawks away most of the day. I'm always trying to get her to use the tablet we bought her so she can use the movie apps, but she says the TV is good enough for her. It's just the news on now, but as I'm starting to look away, a familiar image flashes onto the screen. Lexi! Ava insists. Will you please tell her? Shh, I say, waving my hand at her, even though the reporter's talking so fast I can barely catch a word. There it is again, the red car from the parking lot Friday night, although now it's daylight and surrounded by yellow crime tape. The reporter stands several yards away from the car, but I can still see a dark puddle on the ground by the open driver's side door. Shh, what is that? What are they saying? The whole scene looks surreal. Did someone call the cops after all? Did they find out what happened? Cecilia looks up from the sink and frowns at the screen. I saw that story already. A boy was found dead early this morning in the parking lot of the Cheesecake Factory. She waves the knife in my direction. I bet it was gangs. Drugs and gangs. We don't have gangs, Ava says, oblivious to the truth that's starting to dawn on me. Dead? How? Did they say what happened to him? I scan the screen, but all I see is the reporter talking, and my heart is beating so fast that I've totally given up trying to figure out what she's saying. Cecilia focuses back on her tomatoes. With the knife, she makes a slicing motion across her throat with her finger. That's how they do it with the drug cartels. She looks at us both with a shrug. I saw it on Nightline. I glance over at Ava, and her mouth is hanging open as the conversation catches up with her. Wait, the Cheesecake Factory? Is that? I think so. Any doubt is erased as a grainy photo of the guy from Friday night is flashed on the screen. His hair is longer and he looks a bit younger, but that's definitely him. Oh God, it's Casey, she whispers. She grabs me by the arm and pulls me into the laundry room. I suddenly feel hot all over, and my skin prickles like it does just before I'm going to be sick. I slide down the wall on top of a pile of clothes. Do you think he's dead? Ava's concentrating on her phone, and she settles in beside me. They wouldn't have it on the news if he wasn't, and I know he works closing on Saturday nights, she says. She scrolls down on the screen for a few seconds, her eyes darting back and forth as she reads. Holy shit. What? I say, leaning over to get a look. There's a bunch of news reports, but there's not much in any of them. She looks up at me, her face expressionless. The short version is that someone stabbed him and he bled to death sometime overnight. I can feel my mouth go dry. Someone I was with just the day before is dead. Oh my God. I grabbed the phone from her, but she's right. They're just a bunch of short articles, and they all say the same basic thing. That he was found at dawn, and police estimate that he'd been dead about 5 hours. They're withholding his name pending notification of next of kin, but one of the reports has a photo of his car. The very same car I bolted out of on Friday night. There's no doubt it's Casey. A jolt runs through my body as I reread the story. He was killed in the very same spot where we were parked. I stand up and start pacing in the tiny room, needing some kind of physical motion to go with my racing thoughts. What if whoever did this was in the parking lot that night too? I take a deep breath and try to calm down. What if they were watching? I might have ended up the same way. Jesus, Ava, we have to call the cops! She looks at me and I can't believe how calm she is. What for? I don't know, I say, feeling lost, like I should do something, but I have no idea what. I guess it was some kind of witness or something. Maybe I saw something and didn't realize it. I pause, picturing a figure emerging from the shadows and attacking Casey. You didn't see anything Friday night, Ava says. You weren't out with him. Alicia was. The last thing we need is to have to explain Alicia to the cops. Why would they care? She looks at me like I'm an idiot. Hello, fake ID? I glance back at the news photo of the black pool of blood next to the car. More blood than I thought a body could hold. Just the thought of it makes my stomach turn. What is wrong with you? Casey is dead! Ava frowns as I'm practically shouting at her, so I lower my voice. Yelling at Ava only makes her shut down completely. Look, someone killed him, murdered him, the night after I was with him, in the very same spot. The cops aren't going to care about some stupid fake ID. You don't know that. Ava stands up. Besides, this has nothing to do with us. Maybe Cecilia's right, and it had something to do with drugs. In no way do we want to get involved with that. Calling the cops will only drag us into something that's none of our business. I picture Casey's shadowy figure leaning against his car under the street lamp. Oh my God, what if they got my license plate number? What if whoever did that to Casey thinks I know something? They might be able to track us down here. Stop it, Ava says, grabbing me by my shoulders. For the last time, this has nothing to do with us. She shrugs. I know Casey smoked a lot of pot. Was probably dealing it too. Maybe he had it coming. I can't believe she said that so calmly. He was a total asshole. I agree. But did you see the photo? As the image pushes its way back into my mind, I wonder if he knew what was happening. If he was killed instantly or if he lay on the ground, helpless, as the life seeped out of him. Nobody deserves that. Ava reaches for the door handle and there's a distant look on her face I haven't seen before. It's almost like this has happened to someone on TV, not someone she knew. Maybe, she says slowly, considering it. Maybe not. After all, they say that karma's a bitch. Chapter 4. So everyone's talking about that guy Casey being killed yesterday, Maya says, barely loud enough to be heard in the crowded hallway. She looks almost pleased to be able to share that news. You didn't say anything, did you? Ava asked, slamming her locker shut. I don't want people to know that Alicia went out with him. Of course not! Maya glances at me. She's friends with both of us, but takes her orders from Ava. Did anybody here know him? I ask. He graduated from Claremont. That's pretty far away. She shakes her head. I don't think so. Not personally. But a guy in my bio class knew his cousin or something. Even though I let Ava talk me into not going to the cops, just thinking about that night makes me uneasy. It's like a bad movie. Scenes from the car and then the news keep flashing through my mind. Casey's eyes as they narrowed in on mine. The feel of the keys as I clutched them in my hand. The wide pool of blood by the driver's side door. Don't even think about it, Ava says to me, and her voice edged with warning. I'm pulled out of my thoughts and blink like I've been caught in headlights. What? As if I don't know. As if she can't tell what's going on in my head. You've got a guilty look on your face, she says, leaning towards me. Nothing you can tell the cops is going to help them find whoever did this. It has nothing to do with us. Can we talk about something else, please? I beg. It's just so totally creepy, Maya says, completely ignoring me. She puts one arm on my shoulder. I mean, imagine something like that happening to someone we knew. He wasn't all that innocent, Ava says, looking around to make sure nobody overhears her. Maya gapes at her. You mean he got what he deserved? That's exactly what I mean, Ava says, turning her back on Maya, signaling that the conversation is over. They both wait while I reorganize my backpack. Are you coming to lunch? In a minute, I'm interrupted by a whooping noise from down the crowded hallway. Over the sea of heads, I can see Joel Macy's spiky brown hair popping up and down. I got in! He shouts, banging on lockers as he makes his way towards us. I got in! Some people scowl and others fist bump him as he passes by. It's difficult not to get caught up in his enthusiasm. Did you hear yet? He asks, sweeping me around in a circle and then setting me back down again. I glance over at Ava, and like I thought, she's staring at the two of us with a scowl on her face. Joel didn't notice, only waves his phone at me. I just got the email from Stanford! I got in! So I guessed. I grinned, not like there was any doubt. Joel's been the one and only choice for valedictorian at our school since kindergarten. That's awesome. Thanks, he says and bumps my arm. What about you? Joel's grin is threatening to take over his entire face. It's nice to see him happy for a change. I haven't gotten anything yet. Joel was a lock. We all knew that. Nobody in their right mind takes 5 AP classes senior year. Me, on the other hand, not so much. Too many nights I stayed up past midnight studying, trying a lot harder than everyone else seemed to need to in order to keep my grades up. I've done everything I can. Now it's up to the admissions committee. We're both aware that they only take 7% of their applicants. Now that Joel's in, there's one less space for me. You will! Like they're going to reject you? Oh my god, this is going to be so awesome! Stanford is going to rock next year! With that, he gives me a giant smile and continues down the hallway. What an idiot, Maya says, even though we all know she's just saying that for my benefit. Promise me that when your email comes, you won't embarrass yourself like that, Ava says, glancing down the hallway to where we can still hear Joel celebrating. That was not my fault, I tell her. I didn't say it was, she says. I'm sure you two will be happy together next year. Shut up, I shove her in the arm. I might not even get in. Maya gives me a look. Come on. Seriously, I say, trying to wrap my mind around the possibility, but they both shake their heads in disbelief. Hey, Zane says, peering over my shoulder. Did you hear about the guy at the Cheesecake Factory? Enough, Ava says and puts her hands over her ears. I don't want to talk about that anymore. Sorry, Zane says, looking hurt. Don't worry about it, I say, shooting a look at Ava. She's decided that she wants nothing but good news from now on. Zane glances at Ava and then nods down the hall. Speaking of good news, Joel Macy got his admission email. We saw, I say. If Zane knows what's good for him, he'll drop the subject quickly. Have you heard anything yet? Nope, I say, feeling in my pocket for my phone. I can feel the butterflies forming. The truth of what I just told Ava is starting to sink in. What if I don't get in? What would Dad say? They're probably sending them out alphabetically. I bet by the end of the day. He puts one arm around my shoulder, but the weight of it just feels heavy. Don't jinx it, I say, removing his arm. I don't know how much more waiting I can take. Won't be long now. I can feel it. Easy for Zane to say. College isn't exactly on his list of things to do. He turns and I can see a big scrape at the bottom of his chin. What happened there? Zane puts one hand up and rubs the spot absentmindedly. I caught a sweet wave this morning but got Maytagged at the bottom. I always think surf talk is hilarious, but I force myself not to laugh. Sorry, are you going out to the quad? I ask. I was going to eat with Maya and Ava. Oh yeah? Zane says, looking over my shoulder. I turn to see them already at the end of the hallway. Maya looks back like she wants to say something but gets swept along in Ava's wake. I know I'm not your sister's favorite person, Zane says. I watch Maya and Ava walk out of the building. She doesn't not like him. It's just that he's not exactly her type. It's nothing personal, I say. Yeah, he says with a grin. That's exactly how I'm taking it. We walk through the double glass doors and out onto the sunlight, and settle onto the concrete wall on the edge of the quad. I grab my sandwich out of my backpack and Zane pulls out a book. Home Brewing for Dummies, not Pride and Prejudice. I flick the edge of one page. Home brewing? Zane glances at the cover. Sure, like a micro brewery. In our kitchen. Don't worry, it'll be classy. Dad's even working on some private labels for the bottles. Figure Zane's dad for making home brew in their sink. He's the kind of parent who lets you drive the car on the back roads when you're only 14 and looks the other way when you take a swig of his beer at the 4th of July picnic. You can't even legally drink. He looks at me thoughtfully. So, I can still make it. Think of it as chemistry, and I like chemistry. I barely take another bite of my sandwich before my phone buzzes. I jump a little, enough for him to notice. You gonna get that? Zane asks, glancing at me. I suddenly feel sick. Of course, I say, reaching for it, but it's like my fingers have a mind of their own, and my phone sails onto the grass. Zane jumps down and picks it up, but as he hands it to me, I change my mind. You check it, I say, pushing it back at him. Come on, he says, wagging it in front of me. Just get it over with. Then you can start to make plans. Finally order that twin extra long My Pretty Pony comforter for the dorm room. You only say that because you want one. I reach for my phone, but then back off like it's red hot. I can't. I look up at him and clasp my hands together. Please, just look at this one email and I'll be your best friend. Who else would have you? Zane looks at the phone, considering it. You're sure? Positive. I've never been so sure of anything in my entire life. Okay. Zane taps the screen a few times. Is it from them? In just a few short moments, it feels like I've forgotten how to breathe. He grins. Would you look at that? There's an email here from the Stanford University Office of Undergraduate Admissions. Oh my god, I say, digging my fingernails into my palms. My heart feels like it's going to beat right out of my chest. Open it! Zane taps the screen again, and I squeeze my eyes shut, unable to bear the suspense any longer. My entire life hinges on the next few seconds. Everything I've worked for, all the honors and AP classes, all the class vice presidencies I've held, all the volunteer hours, they all come down to this one email. What does it say? Just read it already! I feel like I'm going to explode. I hear Zane take a deep breath. Dear Alexa, he begins, but his tone is so flat that I open my eyes to watch him. I barely register the words very sorry and unable to offer you admission before my anger flares up. That's so not cool! I yell at him. This isn't time to be screwing around! I expect him to smile, to push me on the shoulder and tell me he's joking, to break the thick wall of tension that's formed around us, but all I can see is the regret in his eyes. You are kidding, right? I can hear the pleading in my voice that mirrors how much I want it to be true. He swallows hard, and I see his Adam's apple bob up and down. I wish I was, he says softly. Zane grabs my hand and puts the phone gently on my palm. I scan the letter, but my brain refuses to understand anything beyond the first sentence. I am very sorry to let you know that we are unable to offer you admission to Stanford University. But how? These are all the words I can form at this moment. I feel numb and empty, like someone has come and scooped out all of my insides. We did everything right. I took the AP classes, PSATs, SATs, joined the Key Club, and ran my ass off on the cross-country team, even though I hated every second of it, because I wanted a sport on my application. I may not be in the running for valedictorian, but my grades are always above a 4.0. Dad promised I'd get in, It's all we've talked about since forever. I search Zane's face to see if there are any answers there. What happened? God, I'm so sorry, he says, squeezing my hand. Zane isn't the type to give me meaningless hope, tell me that I can always apply somewhere else, that maybe this is for the best, that it just wasn't meant to be. He understands how bad this really is. I hear a roaring in my ears and it feels like the future is rushing at me a million miles an hour. But instead of ivory-colored walls and long nights at the Stanford Library, it's just a giant black hole. I don't even care about my phone as it tumbles to the ground. I just lower myself down to the wall until I can feel the warm concrete on my cheek as I lie there. This is as far as I can possibly move right now. The thought of getting up and walking across the quad is impossible. Come on, we have to go, Zane says, trying to pull me up. The bell rang. I'm staying here, I say, pulling my knees up to my chest. He looks around as everyone slowly walks away from the grassy area into the 2-story brick buildings. All of them still have their futures wide open. They'll get emails from colleges in the next couple of weeks and celebrate by running down the hallway banging on lockers and shouting with excitement. I have nothing. We're gonna be late, Zane says, and I hear the panic rising in his voice. He has no idea what to do next. You hate being late. I manage a small shake of my head. Doesn't matter, I say. None of it matters anymore.